right. Getting connected. Love it, I love it, I love it. Oh, yeah. Talk about some cryptocurrency today. You know what? Let me share that. What's the best way to do this?
To this in a
Coolio. Think, hello, let me know you're here. Say something in the chat. Glad to have you. But I'm gonna, I think people are gonna be excited about this one. What's the best way to do this? Nice to see you, TC. Nice to have you. Always, always. I'm gonna tweet this out. I think people are gonna be interested in this. Crypto. Has more tweets? Crypto or cryptocurrency? Crypto has the most. Crypto right now. Hopefully get a few extra people in the conversation today. I know people love talking about their crypto. So I'm going to throw this in a couple of chats that I'm in. Who else likes to talk about crypto? Be right. All right. Yeah, let's Oh, I can put it in the Maydao Discord server. That'd be good. Yeah, it's I have a sort of a hot take, and then but I'm gonna back it up because I think I kind of out envision what a lot of crypto enthusiasts or a lot of the heads of a lot of crypto enthusiasts are at. I think this is gonna be really cool. So hopefully we get some more people in on this. I'm going to get into it real quick, really soon here. Hopefully we get a few more people in, and then I will get going. All right. Well, I will just get into it. Yeah, I kind of cryptocurrency and kind of a lot of the technologies that are kind of related to it or in the same sphere. Hello. Well, glad to have you. By the way, if you just join in, just say hello. Throw something in the chat. Say hi. Tell me that you're stopping by. But I yeah, so it hasn't gone the way I think crypto enthusiasts have wanted it to go. You know, when you're looking at blockchain and proof of work, proof of stake, NFTs, and kind of how the public has perceived it, and some of the maybe the things that have happened. I know, like yesterday, there was like a dive on Bitcoin, um, and I think a lot of people are still very attached to Bitcoin in a weird way. Bitcoin to me feels very Gen 1, very first generation kind of technology. And it's a little bit weird to me that we're just sticking to it so much. That doesn't, it's not really like the way of the tech bro, right? It's not like typically tech enthusiasts try to keep moving on and pushing forward and trying to invent the next new thing. And that's not really what's been happening. So, and I get that part of it is the fear of pump and dump, right? So Bitcoin and Dogecoin are really kind of the only two that like you really don't have to worry about that so much. And that's one of the reasons that people are so into those two. Um, but I really think like there's something more fundamental going on here, which is like I wanna highlight again this first generation thing. Like there are some fundamental problems with Bitcoin, and that's okay because it is a first generation product, and we can do better. We can build on it, right? So for example, Ethereum is going to be switching to proof of stake to try to deal with the environmental sustainability problems. Of course, there are other issues that come with proof of stake that look like more traditional, financial transactions or centralization types of problems. Right? We see problems with like processing times and how unstable the currencies are. And I think the approach is wrong. I think the way that it's being framed and that people are thinking about these technologies is not productive. It's not what it could be or what it should be. And so I've been thinking about this for a while, and I did a stream with Jenny Qta and some others on Twitter Spaces, and we talked about. They asked me a bunch of questions about crypto and my stance, and I think I was actually pretty consistent about like, there's some shortfalls and like what do I want to see in crypto, but it was a little bit on the spot, and I've since had time to think about it and kind of put it all together, and so I've thought a lot about what I want in a cryptocurrency, or just it doesn't necessarily need to be a cryptocurrency, but whatever we have for the future, the mechanism or the technology that we use to organize our economy in the future and the direction that we should be headed in. And I've categorized it into you have 96. Oh, all right, cool. You're up on Ethereum. That's awesome, TC. But what was I saying? So I put it into an acronym actually to highlight like the 5 things that I think a crypto should be. And so I'm going to go over what that acronym is and kind of a little bit more in detail with each of those things, and kind of like highlight like this is I think the mindset that we need to have when we're thinking about a future way to organize our economy. Right, so right now we organize it using fiat, and in the information age, it's very inefficient. right? I mean, fiat was meant to facilitate the exchange of goods and services, but now it's facilitating inequity. And so, this move to decentralization, I think, is a generally good idea, but there are other problems. But I think they're solvable problems. And there have been a lot of great minds kind of coming at this, and I'll go over some examples. But let me go over the 5 things that I want to see in a crypto. And the acronym is CARES, CARES. So the C stands for convenient. So let me just go through them. So convenient, altruistic, robust, equitable, and sustainable. So convenient, altruistic, robust, equitable, sustainable. Okay, so let's go through each one of those because there's a little bit more detail to be had in there. So convenient. Right now, I think about it is really easy to use Apple Pay. Right, like I pull up my phone, it scans my fingerprint. Eventually, once I have a new iPhone, it'll scan my face, and I just hold it up to a terminal, and everything authorizes a 2-factor authentication. It's secure. It's one-time use tokens. And boom, everything's paid for. It's paid for, and I can move on and go to the next thing. And then I have all the data. It's not as much data as I would like, which is one of the problems with our current infrastructure, right? Like I'd like to have itemized receipts just automatically sent to like my email or whatever. And I know Apple's using some AI with their credit cards, but like that could be something that's like built in. But ultimately, it comes down to this: the solution should be more convenient than the problem. And if we see fiat as the problem, then whatever future system that we use to organize our economy needs to be more convenient. If it's not more convenient, then people won't switch. You can pretend all day long like you're going to convince everybody of all the benefits, but convenience always wins, right? That's why Netflix streaming destroyed Blockbuster, because Blockbuster refused to move in a changing market. Streaming is more convenient, right? That's why people are watching movies at home rather than going to theaters, right? Spider-Man just released exclusively in theaters. That was like a whole thing, right? And I do think it has its own certain kind of value, but it was like the other Marvel movies that released this year released simultaneously on Disney Plus, and a lot of people are just watching it at home. Even though you can get a much better experience at a movie theater than you can at home. And so the the convenience needs to be there, and that includes simplicity, right? So inherent in convenience is simplicity. People need to understand it. They need to be able to trust it, right? It needs to fit within. It needs to fit within their current mindset, their brains, or not even necessarily their current mindset, but it needs to not be like mentally inconvenient either, right? It's not just about the amount of time that it takes to do a transaction. It's top to bottom that convenience needs to be there. So that's convenience. Altruistic. More specifically, the way I would define altruistic in this context is aligned with the well-being of the people and the planet. So that's really important, right? So right now, whether you're talking about fiat or cryptocurrency, it's really just value. It's really just like a number, right? It's not like inherently aligned with the actual well-being of people, right? Like it needs to be like you get Bitcoin from like mining, right? From like doing the work, or from spending fiat, which is like already nonsense in the first place. And so like it needs to be attached to positive incentives, specifically like the well-being of the people and the planet. How do you decide what counts as the well-being of people? You ask the people, and that is like the big thing with the information age, right? Big data. You can ask the people. You can have people participate. You can have people collectively decide what's good and what's not, and that can change dynamically as our culture changes and as what people want and desire changes. And it doesn't need to be a simple majority system. You can have it be a more consensus-based system. Like, there are really cool, unique ways to do this, and I've talked about this before with some of my democratic mechanics. I won't get into that right now, but it needs to be altruistic. Okay, the next one, this is a big one, robust. So I mean, when I say robust, there are a lot of things that I mean here. So robust, it has to be secure, and that is, I know, like, a very broad, like, how do you ensure the security? Obviously, using a trustless system is great, but, you know, things like, you know, proof of whatever, right? So not just proof of work, proof of stake, but, like, I know there's a crypto that's experimenting with, like, proof of humanity. And so it's like each user, there's just one, and how you prove it, and there are some different mechanisms for doing that. I don't think their mechanism is perfect. I think it could still be improved. But keeping that, making sure you don't have spoofing attacks, and, like, that's, security never ends, right? Cybersecurity never ends, but security is really, really important. And we've been seeing some problems already with this, like we saw some in El Salvador. It's been an issue. We're still under the umbrella of robust. There's a lot to get through here. It needs to be stable. And I just mean that in kind of face value, what it means to be stable. That it's right. That it's not bouncing around all over the place. It's not like these massively fluctuating prices. That it's predictable, right? That it's something you can rely on, right? Reliable may be another way to say this other than robust. Maybe reliable might even be a better word, right? Self-regulating is kind of along that same vein, under robust. So it shouldn't need intervention from some centralized authority, and I think most crypto folks are in agreement with this, that, like, it should be regulated, but it should be able to do it autonomously, like, on its own. It should be able to regulate itself to ensure that crazy things don't happen. And it needs to be resistant to disruption from the rich and powerful. So I think I saw a stat, like, yesterday that was like 99% of crypto is owned by, like, 27% of crypto holders. Or no, I think it was, or was it 1% owns 27%? I don't remember. But, like, you know, it was, right, it's like, and how was that obtained? That's obtained by people who were able to get a lot of mining cards early on, or bought into it earlier, had a lot of money to buy a lot of crypto. Like there's just this fundamental problem of, like, there's one other part of robust here that I say it must stand on its own. So this is, like, the fundamental problem of every crypto that I've come across so far that's actually, like, been implemented, which is that it relies on fiat, that we use fiat as the measuring stick for crypto. If your crypto is using fiat as its measuring stick, then it's not really independent of fiat, is it? It relies on fiat. Doesn't that kind of defeats the whole purpose of it, right? So cryptocurrency needs to be independent of fiat. It shouldn't need fiat in order to operate, right? And it should be, it should work without fiat. It shouldn't be this kind of, like, stock market price, like, thing or comparison, or, like, depending on how fiat moves around or how the crypto moves around in relation to the fiat. Like, it should be separate from that. And I get that, like, trying to get people to transition, like, there's a difficulty in that, and that's why I fight for an unconditional basic income, because if you start giving everybody money, then people will stop caring about money, and then we can move on to this new system, right? So I see UBI as a necessary step toward this future cryptocurrency that I'm just generally vaguely describing. But it needs to stand on its own, and it shouldn't be leaning on something else. It shouldn't be leaning on fiat or other cryptocurrencies that themselves lean on fiat. It really needs to be its own thing. So that's all under the umbrella of robust, which is the third letter of CARES, right? So again, CARES. Convenient, altruistic, robust, equitable, and sustainable. All right, so now, fourth letter, E, equitable. So this is a little bit simpler. And when I say equitable, I mean globally equitable. So no matter where you are in the world, you're not like losing out, or you're not losing out just because you live in a poor part of the world or you have less opportunity or whatever it is. It needs to make sure that every human gets their full values worth. And there are a variety of ways to think about this or implement it. But again, as I've said, that fiat is increasing inequity. Cryptocurrency isn't helping to solve that problem, right? Like crypto folks, this is the other thing I wanted to say earlier. It's like they got so, like, the whole goal was like, we want to like get off of fiat, get off this centralized system, because the centralized system is causing all of these problems. And so then they got so obsessed with getting decentralized, but along the way, they didn't fix any of the problems. And it's still subject to a lot of the same problems that fiat is subject to. And it's like, well, in that case, it doesn't matter if it's centralized or decentralized if all the same problems still exist. Like, you have to solve those other problems too. And equitability is one of them. There's a huge inequity in the world. There are huge inequities in the world. And we can solve it with technology and with information in the information age. We can choose to do that. And we should, and this future crypto should do that, rather than upholding the broken system that we're trying to get away from, right? That's the whole point of crypto, is we're trying to get away from this broken system. Let's build a system that isn't broken. Let's build a system that is equitable. So that's number 4. And then number 5, sustainable. And this is both environmentally sustainable, right? So it doesn't require just obnoxious amounts of computing power, uses obnoxious amounts of energy. It's sustainable in all the environmental way, or use resources that require like slave labor or some kind of like crazy amounts of extraction, or that we don't have an abundance of. But also sustainable in that, like, it will last, right? That people can trust that it will, that like it's not going to just disappear, or it's not going to just fall apart, right? It needs, right? And that's kind of in the robust category, right? So that kind of ties together a little bit there. So it needs to be sustainable. So again, from the top, convenient, altruistic, robust, equitable, sustainable. CARES. CARES. So that's what I want on a cryptocurrency. That's what I dream of. And again, it doesn't necessarily need to be a cryptocurrency, but I think these technologies, including things like all your proof of X, or NFTs. Again, it's like kind of a Gen 1 product and has problems, and we could shift. Web 3.0 is now getting very controversial, but like the ideas are there. The question is like on executing them. And I think it can be done. I don't think we're even close to being there yet. And I'm optimistic. I think we will get there. But I think it's important to have these conversations and to lay it out very clearly, and like have like actual goals, like what are we trying to get to, and like zoom out and have the bigger picture in mind, and like give some perspective to this. So this is just what I've come up with. I don't really have direct input on this idea from anybody else. This is just based on different conversations I've had. I had a conversation with Copiosis. I had a conversation with somebody who created a system that he loved. It was an acronym. I don't recall what it all stands for, but they had some of these similar concepts in there. Yes, TC says, like usual, you have really thought this out. Yeah, I have. I've been thinking about this for months and months and months, because I really wanted to shrink it down. So I originally had like a list of $5 words that were just like all these things, and there was a lot of overlap. And so I was like, how can I shrink this down? How can I put this together? So yeah, I think like I want to come at this with a positive attitude. Like right now, the whole kit and caboodle is like broken and it's like whatever. And like I'm not going to tell my mother to like go out and buy Bitcoin. It's not going to happen. Um, but like it's a challenge to the crypto community. Like if you want, do you want to get more people involved? Like do you want the public to get on board with this concept? You need to do this stuff. This is the kind of stuff you need to do. It needs to be more, the solution needs to be more convenient than the problem. It needs to be simple and understandable. It needs to be sustainable. People aren't going to support something that's not environmentally sustainable these days, as they shouldn't. It needs to be equitable. People want it to actually solve some of the problems. Yeah, TC says, what about Copiosis? Copiosis doesn't have a cryptocurrency, and again, that's kind of what I'm saying. It doesn't necessarily need to be a cryptocurrency, but they have some of these same ideas built in with Copiosis that like you receive, I think it's what, NDP or something. You receive that for like doing good things in the world, right? So for like increasing the well-being of others, and you then receive the kind of equivalent of a currency in Copiosis, and then that is, or NBR, yeah, NBR. And then you know what determines what is and isn't, and who gets what and who doesn't is like those are collective decisions made by the people in a decentralized system, and like basic needs are taken care of. It relies on radical transparency and like an abundance mindset and all of these things. So there's a lot of alignment between what Copiosis is doing and kind of what I'm talking about. But Copio, yeah, net benefit reward, NBR stands for net benefit reward. Copiosis is, they have their more specific plan that they're putting together, which is cool. And I'm zooming out and I'm just getting more generalized, and I'm going at like at the crypto community specifically, like, hey, here's what you can be working on right now. And I know that some cryptos are trying to achieve some of these things, but I think you really need to check off like all of this stuff to really hit the nail on the head with what we need. So maybe there's more that on this list that needs to be checked off. Maybe there's a little too much overlap. Maybe these demands are too high. I don't think they are. I think we can do all of this. But I encourage the conversation around it, and I think that we need to have this positive mindset. That we need to have a mindset of this needs to make the world a better place. That is a really, really important part of this. Goodness, I was yelling. The echo gets to me. Yeah, pretty clear room right now. Yeah. Okay, well, that's all I got. There's nobody else has anything else to say, then I will I'll finish up. I don't know. I might have to okay, hang on. TC says getting away from fiat and that system will be a better world. Yeah, I agree. Fiat is problematic in the 21st century. It's problematic in the information age. It doesn't work anymore. It doesn't do what it's supposed to do. We can do what it does a lot better with information, and we can do a whole lot more with information too. So I say let's do it, and I think we've started to see some of the foundational technologies that are going to be needed to pull that off. I think it's very exciting. Yeah, but that's it. I've been screaming at my screen for half an hour already, so I'm gonna call it here. But yeah, that's all. I appreciate you watching. Go ahead and share or whatever. But I guess I'll see you in the future. Oh yeah, and then the time of these streams could potentially change in the near future. Um, I'll let you know if it happens. It might not, but just like a little heads up, they might start later, like an hour later, but we'll or 2 hours later. We'll cross that bridge when we come to it, if we come to it.